Hello? Can you guys hear me in the back? Can I get a thumbs up? Yes, no, yeah? Okay, hi guys. This is gonna be the second part to the idea to app that Sam started last week. Originally, Sam was supposed to finish this lecture, but what I'm going to do is, well, he got incredibly busy this week, so I'm gonna cover for him. And I guess to start off this lecture, just to make sure, did anyone who emailed, that completed the form, I hope you guys all saw that the Project 2 guidelines were released, I believe, last Friday, and that you were supposed to sign up with the group by the Sunday. And if you have not gotten an email by then, or if you don't have a group or you have trouble finding a group, come talk to me after class or shoot me an email so we can get you guys started as soon as possible. All right, continuing Quitter. So well, does anyone have any questions about what Sam covered last week that came off the top of their head? Wow. Nope. So just to recap, in case you don't remember, what Quitter was basically Twitter for quitters. People sign up for Quitter and they post their quits, or they talk about what they're quitting. So this is the same slide from last week. And for the future, which was the admin stuff, is what we're going to implement today, or a very low level authentication system. So we already made the user/post models, and with the post model being the quit, basic user authentication, validations and associations. And we created seeds for it, routes, and what we didn't finish last week was the authorization. So to solve this problem, we're going to use a gem called can. It's a community-backed gem, aka like people in the Rails community are still working on it today to improve the gem. And what's nice about it is all your authentication logic could just be put in one folder. It's called ability.rb. We're gonna present it during the live coding session, and just some more info about it. So originally there was a group, right, that originally created this gem called just can, right? And they stopped working on it since Rails 3, and it's been like, it's been a few, or 2013, right? It's been a few years since then. So the Rails, I just want to make it a point that like the Rails community, like they stopped the gem was great. Someone wasn't continuing it. So they, the community just started up another gem that could continue on doing great things with authentication for Rails 4 and the future. And after this lecture, after the initial half of this lecture, we're going to cover Git. How many of you guys don't know how to use Git? Okay. So usually, last semester we covered Git because of most people never actually used Git before, but I realized like starting this semester, like I'm using it for 186, 61B started using it. So I don't know if like, I'm gonna just quickly glaze over the Git lecture then, because apparently all of you, almost all of you know it. And yeah, if you guys have any like specific questions, just ask me, you know, during the lecture or during office hours. So let's get started. So let's say let's say this Twitter app was actually me and Sam's, let's say we're a team for our second Rails project, right? And Sam created the repo, so I'm going to go to Rails Decal. This is our little group, and this was Sam's repo, lecture 8. Oh, and just an FYI, there's already prepared a lot of the code for this. If you want to just see what I'm about to do and just look ahead, you could see it in the lecture 9 repo that's posted up. So continue on. Let's pretend like I didn't do any of that, right? And I'm Sam's partner. He did like the first half of our project. And what he wanted me to do was add all the authentication to it, right? So I'm going to first get this repo. To get your friend's repo, just copy the URL. I'm going to kill all of this. Brightness, screen bigger. Make okay, I'm just putting this just to separate from all the other decal stuff. So to clone a repository from GitHub, you just do git clone, and you hand it a URL, right? And now I have Sam's project. He's done a bunch of stuff. I cd into the project. I open up my text editor. And I'm going to start up my server, Rails S. Keep that running in the background. And what should happen is I'm going to, since my server's up, I'm going to look at Sam's project, see what kind of progress we made, right? If I go a little close, it's going to break. And that's because I didn't run the migrations yet. So I'm going to run rake db migrate. Wait for it. And all right, so this is the app Sam left you with at the end of his lecture. And the first thing I've noticed is, oh crap, like I can't really sign in actually, or it's very difficult to sign in or sign up because all I have is a home button. Since I just know devise, I know if I do rake routes, you get a list of all the routes, and devise already creates for me a path to be able to sign in and sign up. So if you see here, it's /user/sign-in is one endpoint. /user/sign-in. It gives me this form, right? And /user/sign-up gives me this form. But these are very hard to access. So what I want to do is create some buttons on the top right here that will allow me to quickly access these forms. So first off, I'll just do it through the app. App views. And do you guys ever look at the layouts folder? Does anyone have an idea what application.html.urb is? Yes. Yeah, exactly. So basically, in this application.html.erb, if you guys work with HTML, CSS, you know you usually have to define like a head tag and a body tag, right? And within application.html, that's for us, .slim, all that's defined for us. And that's the reason why when you just define a view, you never had to define any of the head or the links to the JavaScript or anything like that. It's the general layout for all your views are done in application.html. So this contains our header, right? And right here contains our little nav bar. I'll just highlight it. These two lines. And I'm going to just write some Ruby logic right here. If current user else. Okay. Does anybody know what current user refers to, or what I'm trying to do right now by any chance? Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, exactly. So if someone's logged in, what I'm going to want to do is just, maybe I should do the reverse logic first. Sorry. So what do I do when someone's not logged in, right? I want to show them links to either sign in or sign up. So what I'm going to do right now is do li, which is a link tag, use my Rails function link to create a link for me, and then say login. With devise, check out the login path, which is user/sign-in. So they give me this really nice prefix for me, new_user_session. So if I do this, then this login button will now link to the sign-in page. And if I just want to make a copy, sign up, I could look at my rake routes that are given to me from devise to see how I could register. And right here, I see new user registration is like user/signup. So remember the page I went to go sign up, when I went /user/signup, I could just copy new user registration. I can just do this. Registration and append _path, _path right here. So now I'm going to see if I'm going to write in the logic to have a button that if I am signed in, right, it should give me like some sort of signal that I'm signed in. So like a common thing like on Facebook is that like you see your picture on the top right, but what I'm going to do is just put a link to my name, and this indentation's off, so just fix that. Li is a link to, since my name's dynamic, but it's stored in the current user, I could do link to current user.name and find out the path by looking at my rake routes and seeing that a get for the user ID is just the user path right here. So I could just do user path user, or sorry, current user. Hopefully nothing explicit and stable. Okay, so now I have buttons to sign in and sign up. There are seeds for me to make an account, but I'm going to show you how to customize, or how gems allow you to customize their defaults. So you know how right now if I click sign up, right? I have 3 fields: email, password, password confirmation. Those are pretty standard, right? Let's say you want more information, like a name. And if you remember in our, in our user model, user.rb, that it validates that it needs a name, right? So if I fill out this form, I'm going to try to create a user, it won't have a name. So I'm going to just do a@b.com, password, password confirmation. I try to sign up. It says, oh, I have an error. It's because my name can't be blank, right? But so what I want to do is add a name field to this form, but I didn't create this form. Devise created this form for me, right? How do I edit that? I could just go to the Devise documentation. It's all here. It's a little bit long, but what I want to find out is how to do custom views, right? So I just Control F views. Configuring views. That sounds like something I'm interested in, to edit like the default views. I read through this and realize this is the line I want. I want to generate the Devise views for the users. I copy that, put that command in my terminal. I run it. And here we go. It created all the views that were defaulted. Like Devise hid these views from me because let's say I just want to do something really standard. I don't have to worry about it. But since I wanted to edit this form, I was able to run this command to get full access to it. So if I pop open my Atom, look at views right now, I have this new folder called users, and in it, to do sign up, it's a registration. So I go to the registration folder. Signing up is the new.html ERB, and now I have control over this form. What I wanted to do was add another input to create the name. f.input.name. I want to turn on off the autofocus. Autofocus is basically saying like, oh, when you go to this page, your cursor automatically goes into this field input. Take that. Wait, I'm just gonna go home. Oh, there's one thing I forgot to do in the documentation. So it says also in the documentation, if you read this out, that when you do custom views, you need to change config scope views equals true. I'll make that bigger. Inside my config/initializers/devise. So I'm going to go to my devise.rb. It's in config, initializers, devise.rb. I could just take this line right here. Opening Sublime. Take this line right here and just put it randomly. But when you guys do this in your own code, you should organize it. So another thing that's really important is every time you what an initializer is basically this code is ran at the start of your Rails application, or every time you start the server, right? So if you were to edit this, what you should do is restart your server. So then all the initializers could be reran. And let's see, click sign up. Now we have the name input. So that's basically how you customize the front end of a Devise generated form. We still got one small problem that will pop up when I try to submit this user. So I submit a@b.com, my name's Howard, password to the confirmation, hit sign up, right? Found unpermitted parameter name. Do you guys remember what strong parameters were? Can anybody tell me what they are actually? All right, so if Strong parameters is basically saying that I only want to take out like certain fields that are getting passed into a certain endpoint, right? So when I make like a post to my server, that I only take out like either like the name, password, and email, and not anything I don't want, like a Boolean that turns my admin true. Right now, Devise is saying, hey, someone's trying to screw with us, and it's trying to hand in the name parameter, and as far as Devise knows, it doesn't want that, so Devise is going to error out. So let's say I didn't know anything about Devise, right? And I've got into this problem. I realized it's a strong parameter problem, so I could just go to the documentation, look for strong parameters, and I find this little section right here about strong parameters. And here's a little block of code that says that will allow me to add parameters. So I'm just gonna copy this in and explain exactly what's happening. So it tells me to do this in my application controller. Does anybody know what the application controller is for? Or want to explain it to me? All right, well, the application controller is basically the model that inherits, that all of the controllers you write inherit from. And basically all this will, all the functions in this controller will be ran before the construction of your other controllers that you define. So with this one, I'm saying, before we do an action, we're gonna change the, if it is a Devise controller, we're gonna say, hey, sanitize, to sanitize the parameter is basically saying, it's the same thing as saying, oh, we're gonna permit certain fields from our params hash that gets passed in. So I'm just gonna say, hey, allow the name to go through. And I go back to our application. Sign up, afb.com, name is Howard, password's password. So now we're back to where we were with Sam's application, except now we could sign in and sign up through the app instead of doing it through our seeds and console. One last thing that I need to add to make my whole taskbar complete is the ability to sign out, right? In case like, oh, I'm about to leave my computer, I don't want anyone messing with my stuff. So I'm going to go back to our application.html.slim and create a sign out button. So you basically could only sign out if there is a user. So we want to put it in the if current user case, create a li, create a link to, and we need to figure out the request we want to make to destroy our certain session, or sorry, destroy our current session to log out. So how we find that out is just checking out our routes that Devise provides for us. We see that there's a destroy user session, and it's done through a delete request. So log out, destroy user session. Does anybody remember what kind of request that link to automatically calls out of the four, like get, post, patch, delete? Exactly, it's a get. So since our logout doesn't take a get request, but takes a delete request, we have to pass in the method. So we just define it by doing method delete. And instead, the logout will give us a delete request. So I forgot to append word path. do this. Now when I log out from my user session, I'm back to the base app. And I want to, let's say, create another user. C at d.com. Let's call this guy Gary. Great. I'm going to sign up another user, right? So now there's both Gary and Howard. Gary could create a quit for himself. Let's say I'm going to quit smoking. All right, and I have the ability to update this, quit drinking. And then here's the part that's bad if from Sam's lecture, that I'm Gary, right? I shouldn't be able to make quits for Howard, but currently I can. So I could tell Howard to quit breathing. And like, that's not what we want, right? We want to have it so that Gary only has access to his own quits, and I only have access to my own quits, and just have admin capabilities. So let's say if I didn't know about can, I would just do a little Google search, Rails gem for authentication, right? And then can should pop up. It's this repository right here. You could look at the most recent commit. It was updated a month ago, so it's still pretty active, right? How do I install this wonderful gem? Here's the installation instructions. It says put this in my gem file. Just copy, paste it. Gem file is at your root, so I'm just going to quickly go to it and add it to the end. I'm going to run bundle install. And now I have can in my Rails repository. So getting started. If you remember in my short amount of slides, I just talked about this ability.rb file. Can says, oh, I could generate this file easily by running this command. How convenient. Copy, paste. And it created the file ability.rb in the models. So I better go to app, the models folder. I've got ability.rb. It's given me this base file, and it's even given me a little doc just to quickly start using it, but we could just ignore this for now. And just a little note, in case you guys do and most likely will use can for your for authorization, right? Is that it's going to assume that what you're authorizing is a user. So it's making the base assumption that you will have like a current user path, and it's a user model that needs to be authenticating. There's documentation on how to override this in case like you're using authorization for a different model. Like if you define a train, like every user is actually called a train or something. They have documentation for that. And has anyone seen, or can anyone guess what this logic is? And if you've already seen it, yeah, just say what it is. This bar equals. Any guesses? So you see this initialize function, right? It takes in a user. And in a lot of programming languages, objects could either evaluate to true or false. And like, for example, like 0 evaluates to false, 1 evaluates to true. An empty object, usually like a null, usually evaluates to false, while just any instance of object evaluates to true. What this or equals is an or equals. What it's saying is, hey, if there's already something in the user object that evaluates true, aka there's an object in there, I'm going to keep it, and I'm not going to evaluate the right side. But let's say I get passed in a null. There's nothing in so whoever put in users put in null. I'm just going to say, hey, set user to the empty user. Okay. Now, what I want to do is limit it so that I could only edit my own. So yeah, I could edit my own quits and not edit other people's quits. And for this example, I can't edit Gary's quits. Going through this documentation, I read a lot of stuff and I find that what I want to do is to figure out how to define abilities. So I go pop it open and it tells me how to use this abilities class, right? What I want to do is do some logic that says, hey, I want to be able to read, update, and destroy a post only if the user owns the post. Going through this documentation, I find something that's pretty useful. It's called alias action, right? Copy and paste it and tell you what's going on. So alias action basically says, when past a list of options, I could set this list of options to one variable and or one symbol basically. And in this one, I'm saying, hey, if I mention the word CRUD, if I give someone the ability to CRUD something, I'm basically giving them the ability to either create, read, update, or destroy. And because the people who made like can and the people that use can really like the Rails community really likes believing that you want to read code as if it were just an English line. What read refers to is show. So basically saying, oh, you can read something is that you can access the show method, for the record, just so there isn't surprises. So to use can, all you have to say is you can CRUD. I could CRUD these I basically could do all these options on the condition. So if you go to this documentation, that basically I could pass a hash of conditions. I first say the action it could do. So I hope both of those will appear. Okay, I'm just having a lot of trouble with my Windows, so let's take that out. Okay, I can CRUD quit if my the user ID on the quit is the same thing as the user's .id. Does that make sense? So I'm saying that I'm going to run this authorization on all my quit models, right? And that quit model has a user ID. It's how it links up to its owner. I'm saying that it will only work if the user here that's passed in our initialize has the same ID as the one that's on the quit itself. Okay. Last but not least, in our can documentation, it says that we have to, all our controllers that we want to check the authorization on, we want to call this method load and authorize resource. Take it here. So the thing I want to authorize right now is my quits. So I go to my quits controller, plug in this line, hit save. I'm going to restart my server. Every time you do a bundle install, like you add a new gem, you should restart your server, and that's the reason I'm doing it. Go back to the base of my application. Right now I'm logged in as Gary. I still have full access to my own things. But let's say I want to go to Howard's, right? And I want to update this. Can prevented me from accessing this page. This is how you implement authorization. So I could, since this quit doesn't have my user ID, aka I'm Gary for the moment, that I can't access it, I can't edit it, I can only look at it right now. But let's say I'm an admin, right? If I'm an admin, I don't own that quit, but I should have the ability to edit everything, right? I have like supreme power. How am I gonna implement that? In devise, you could just, or sorry, in can, you could do something really basic. It actually comes with the little doc that comes with creating your file. You just say if user.admin, I could just say can manage all, else can read all. Okay, I'm going to explain this logic right now. So I'm going to check if, I'm going to call the user.admin function on it. So it's basically going to return either true or false if I'm an admin. If I'm an admin, oh, I misspelled manage. I'm going to tell can that I can manage everything, and it's doing it through two special keywords in can. Manage is basically saying I could do any action I want. Nothing can stop me from anything. And the second, all, is basically saying all objects. Like if I didn't want my admin to manage everything, but only something like quits, then I could just do manage quit. But since this is my it's my only other object in the data in our models, I might as well just do can manage all. And else, basically, reading permissions don't like hurt anybody really, unless it's like credit card info, something like that. And then you want to hide that. But for the purpose of our site, you should be able to read everyone's quits, right? So in case our user isn't an admin, then we're able to read everything. Going to, okay, now there's one small problem. And that is, what is .admin? I've never defined a .admin function, right? So I could do that now. So really silly thing you could do is just make everybody admin, right? And you could just say, I could define a function in this model, define admin, and just return true. And then bam, it starts working. But now everybody's admin. We can't have that, right? The next simplest thing to do is actually just add a Boolean field. It's not the securest way, but I'm just for this example, I'm going to do a magic Rails migration. So I Rails generate migration, add admin to users. I'm going to say the column's name admin, and it's a Boolean type, right? And lucky for me, this generator already figured out what to do. Because Rails sometimes could figure out by your migration name what table you're actually editing. So so basically look for the keyword to, and after the word to in the name of migration, it's gonna see, oh, users, right? So it's gonna guess that I'm gonna add a column to my users table, and then I pass into arguments admin and Boolean to say it's called admin, and the result is a Boolean. So when I go here, oh, I have to actually migrate my changes, rake db migrate. Have my localhost 3000 up. I'm going to try to go to Howard. I'm not authorized to access this page, but it doesn't break because there isn't a function now. It's just the fact that I am not an admin. But the interesting thing is that what's cool about Rails is since I added a Boolean field, it automatically defines a method for me. Active model automatically defines a method for me that after every Boolean, like, sorry, I need to slow down a little bit. That any Boolean field in your database on your model it'll create a method for you that basically appends a question mark next to the name of the column, and calling that function will return either true or false, which is super convenient. And that's why just adding the column admin just automatically defines this function for you so it doesn't break. So last thing I need to do is just pop open my console, and we're gonna do user.find by name Gary. Let's see. So I could find Gary. I'm gonna call update on it. Oh, and this is some side information in case you guys didn't know that Rails also defines you finders for you. So because I have a name column on Gary, my user model creates a find by underscore the name of the column. So since I have a name column, I could do find by name. I pass it the symbol Gary. It could be like this could be interchangeable with a string. And that gives me any person named Gary, right? I'm gonna call update on it and pass it a hash of attributes. Only have one attribute, admin. Set it to true. And make an insertion now that Gary's an admin. Let's see, now I could edit Howard's breathing, because in my can logic, in my ability.rb, since my current user is Gary, I called .admin on it. It returns true. Now I've been given all permissions for all objects, so nothing could stop Gary from editing Howard's quits. All right, I know that was kind of like a fast go over about the ability to edit devise and just like the basics of can. Does anyone have any questions about the lecture or in general? Yeah.
Is there any changes that you don't have access to edit, which plus and quit as not it's not right out of the blue? Is there any changes that you just see as black?
Oh yeah, you can do that. I mean, okay. I mean, I'll just do that right now. I'm just gonna say right now that I personally don't use devise or can. I actually learned this last night to do the lecture. So, I mean, the thing is, what's really nice about these gems is like, I'm able to, like, I just spent an hour just reading documentation, and now I'm able to roll out like a logging system and an authorization system without too much worry. So that's a nice thing about Rails. So, I mean, if you don't mind, I'm just gonna try to walk through doing that right now, actually. So this is like me debbing in real life. So I'm gonna go to my can. I care about how do I do the views, blah, blah, blah. Right here. So basically it says, if I just run this logic, if can, whatever, then I'll just put in, can you see this or no? Let's make it bigger. So basically, this is for people that want to create like an edit button, right? What this logic does, it says if can update, or this current user has update permissions for this article, right? Then I'll create a link. Then I'll create this link, but if it doesn't, then it just won't show up. So let's see if I could go do that. What view I want to look at is my quits view, or no, my user. I want to look at the show. And for all the users, for each quit, call it a quit and create a link to this quit text. So according to this doc, if I just do if can update, if can update, I'm gonna refer back to this doc. If can update, comma, quit. So the current user could update quit. Then I'm gonna create this link. Okay, hopefully this just doesn't break everything. We go to home. Okay, so right now Gary is an admin, right? So he has all the power in the world. But if we log out, we go to Howard, we can't, I didn't create the link for that quit because the current signed out user doesn't have the permissions. And Devise gave us some really easy methods. I just wrote about 2 extra lines and now a button doesn't appear when you don't have the authorization to do something. And like, I mean, I could just simply put an else case right here, else else let's do h4 text. Let's see. So now I could either see it as a non-clickable quit, right? But when I log in as Gary, oh crap. Well, I'll just log in as myself because I have permissions. Password, login, look at my thing. Now I'm able to click it because I have authorization for my own quits. Is there any more questions about can, devise, this class in general? Any like project questions? Yeah.
You said that the way that you implement this admin permissions is complicated. What would be like another way to do that?
So I mean, it's not secure. Yeah, that's like the way I would do it. Like, let's say you have an admin, right? So right now we have admin and regular users. What happens when we want to add like a different role? Like, let's say we're in a volunteering organization. There are users, there are volunteers, and there are admins, right? Then now we have 2 separate Booleans. One's admin, one's volunteer, and then you have to write more complicated logic for that. And it's better to I can't guarantee this, but the way I've like practiced in my Rails applications is basically creating something like a position, or this is how it's done on the Rails Decal website, actually. If you want to look at our source code, would you mind if I just spent a little time just going over really quickly? Let's see, I would just do something like Rails generate model position. RSpec position.rp. I really should have added columns. Crap. Wait. So since I didn't migrate my migration, actually, is it okay if I show you guys next week? Because I just want to keep this lecture short in case like those who already like signed up to do project meetings, I just want to make sure I have enough time to spend with them. Is that all right? I'll get to it next week. Okay. Is there any like general like any other questions before we get to it? For at least for me to meet my groups and for you guys just to get the code and skedaddle. All right, just sit tight for a little bit. I'm gonna get the code up, and if any of you guys, yeah, if you're one of the project groups that I'm supposed to meet today, just come up right now. Thank you.